So, Rajaji, for the people who don't know you, could you introduce yourself and maybe explain the work you have done for the last years?
Okay. So my name is Rajagopal. I was born in southern part of India, Kerala. Went to Maharashtra to the school established by Mahatma Gandhi to do my training, education. And then from there I went to a place where there was a lot of violence, that is called Chambal Valley. This is a large valley where there were too many bandits. They called them dacoits. So my first task back in 1970 to 78 was getting this bandit to surrender their arms, their gun, go to prison, rehabilitate them. So in 1972 to 74, about 600 bandits surrendered their arms. So this was a very powerful action in terms of understanding how non-violence can counter violence, how a non-violent method of approach can make bandit to surrender their arms. So my first action was in fact reforming the bandits. But then I thought this is not enough. Some people will put down their guns, so the society doesn't become non-violent. If you want to make society non-violent, all forms of violence should end. Not only the violence of gun, but violence in terms of exploitation, in terms of oppression, in terms of poverty, in terms of corruption. So there are various forms of violence in the society. I have achieved only one form of violence coming to an end through the surrender of arms. And how do I address other forms of violence, which I moved from direct violence to indirect violence. Direct violence to systemic violence, which is part of the system in every country, in every society. There is poverty, deprivation, injustice, corruption. So all forms of violence should end. And that is the time when I promoted an organization called Ekta Parishad. Ekta means unity, Parishad means forum. A forum where thousands of people came together to address this issue of injustice and poverty. So first round was addressing direct violence, the second round was addressing indirect violence. And through this second round of action, we got on to mass action, what you call social movement building. And that was my work for the last 40 years, building a non-violent social movement to contain all forms of violence in the society. So I would say from 1972 up to 1995, I was involved in training young people, sending them to villages, helping them to organize the community. Then in 1999, I decided to walk for about 6.5 months, covering a distance of 3,500 kilometers from one end of Rajasthan through Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh to the end of Orissa, and to link all the small organized communities into a large movement. So to say, what I began in 1970 became a social movement only by 2000. So it took 30 years to build a non-violent movement. And once the movement was built, we started using that movement for addressing larger issues. And that is where you will see a lot of larger action. In 2000, we are walking 3,500 kilometers. In 2006, 500 people are walking from the city of Gwalior to city of Delhi. In 2007, 25,000 people are marching to Delhi. In 2012, 100,000 people are marching to Delhi. In 2019, a group of people are marching from Delhi to Geneva. So you see the building of social movement, non-violent social movement at the bottom resulted into major actions at different levels, and all these actions brought about some good result that helped the poor people. So the basic ideas are two, three, and that we learned from Mahatma Gandhi. And one important idea is how do we become relevant to the poor people, the marginalized people? That is a big challenge. Even social organizations get stuck in the middle class and serving the middle class. How do you really drive the social movement to the last person in the society is very, very important, because unless you are able to liberate the poor at the bottom, it is of no use, according to me. So how do you do that? But at the same time, how do you help the middle class people to understand that the battle is between greed and need, millions of people struggling for their need, and you enjoying so much wealth and resources, and this is greed, and you have no reason to do it because it's a sin, it is a crime. That while so many people are suffering, how can you do this? This is a crime. So educating the middle class to appreciate the suffering of the poor and turn their attention to the poor rather than exploiting the poor for making more resources for oneself. And the third area is educating the government to make policies. So organizing the people, educating the middle class, then educating the state to make policies and programs that will ultimately benefit the poor. So Ekta Parishad was working at all three levels. And then you also need to work from local to global. You need to be active at the local level, you need to be active at the national level, and you also need a strong solidarity network at the global level. So working at different level is something which I learned in course of time. So we have local Ekta Parishad, Forum of Unity, we have national Ekta Parishad, and we also have Ekta Europe and other kind of things. So I think it was many years of work that led to many policy changes that ultimately helped a large number of poor people. And this is what I call practicing Gandhi, not speaking about Gandhi, but practicing Gandhi, not speaking about non-violence, but application of non-violence in action. So I was more of a practicing Gandian, applying non-violence in day-to-day reality of people's life. That is a long introduction for myself.
What has motivated you to stay committed to your work for the past 50 years?
That is a very interesting question, because many organizations come up and die. It's like there's a high and then go down. We were able to keep this organization moving to a great degree to the same level for many years without really going down. And keeping an organization, keeping a movement going for such a long time is very, very difficult, because you need to keep the enthusiasm and inspiration, everything high in the organization. So my own motivation is that I think I have no reason to call myself a social worker unless I am addressing the problem of people who are in difficulty. Social work is all about working for the society and working for the people at the bottom. So I think if I want to be relevant in terms of a social worker, which I claim I am one, I need to be relevant to the poor people of the society. That was very clear. I have no reason to call myself a Gandhian, a person influenced by Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy, unless I think of the poorest in the society, because that is what he said. Think about the poorest and liberate them from poverty and misery. That is what Mahatma Gandhi said. So if I want to be a social worker, I need to be relevant to the poor. If I want to call myself a Gandian, I need to be relevant to the poor. And if I want to say I am a person promoting non-violence, in my life, in my action, non-violence should reflect. I cannot be different. So I need to practice non-violence in my life, in my thinking, in my way of behaving. So what is keeping me motivated is that how can I reach out to the poor? How can my life be a service, a support to the poor people who are struggling day to day to liberate themselves? So I want to be part of their liberation process. So Gandhi is a motivation. My desire to help the poor people, that is a motivation. So these are the two motivations I carry with me. And I have kept it for the last 50 years because I think you have a responsibility to keep yourself motivated so that you can keep others motivated. If you are depressed and you think nothing is going to change in the world, why I should spend my time? Everything is gone. So this desire to keep oneself motivated, because then you can motivate thousands of young people saying that, look, there is a possibility, get going. Everywhere there is a possibility, get going. And I think I have done it for the last many years to keep myself motivated and keep the people motivated. And I tell you, in course of time, when your motivation is low, the people will motivate you. Oh, Rajaji, you did so much good work, you have done so much. So they will motivate me. And when their moral is down, I will motivate them. So this has become mutual now, that I can motivate them, they can motivate me. You travel with me to villages and villages. You will see the reception, you will see the love, you will see the affection, you will see how very poor people are arranging for your visit, your arrival. So I can spend all my time just traveling from one village to the other. I don't have to worry about anything else. So much enthusiasm and so much reception, so much love. And I think this love of people, that kept me going for so many years. I understand the poor people, when they start loving somebody, trust somebody, then they really trust. Then they really give their life to the cause. So that was a great motivational factor for me. I think people, I would say, if you ask me in one word, what can keep me motivated? The people with whom I work. They are poor economically, but they are socially, culturally rich, and they continue to motivate me through their socio-cultural actions. They motivate me.
What are your hopes and aspirations for the future?
I think problems are too many. See, I thought the difficult time is over. So because First World War, Second World War, and the second part of 20th century was better off. And we thought 21st century will be really good. But then, again in the 21st century, war and violence and escalation of violence. So situation is still bad. Climate crisis is a new reason why one is worried. So war is worrying me. Climate crisis is worrying me. Of course, poverty is worrying me. The immigrant laborers in different parts of the world and the right-wing politics emerging is worrying me, etc., etc. So there are too many things to worry. So my hope will be that if we can have like G7, G8, it's like governments coming together. Peace should come together. So one of my hope is that if I can network with peace-loving organizations across the world, right? Call it Peace 7, Peace 20, Peace 100. It's like maximum number of peace-loving people, peace and justice-loving people to come together. So I am working towards it. And second hope is that wherever there is conflict, we should have enough young people to move into. The conflict can be in Myanmar, conflict can be in Ukraine, conflict can be in Palestine, but we should have young people, trained young people who can take responsibility and act. Some young people connected to Ukraine, some people connected to Myanmar, some people connected to. So we should have a real team, like now we have a team connected to Manipur in India. They are concentrating on that. So the second dream is that we should have a lot of young people taking responsibility for conflict area and then working on conflict to bring about peace. The third thing is to support this process. One, to network peace organizations. Second, to train more young people as peace volunteers. We should have a peace fund. So peace networking, peace volunteers, promotion of peace volunteers, and peace fund. These are the new ideas I am working on, and that is a hope. That is a hope in a world where there is so much war and violence. There is deprivation and there is so much of crisis. There is so much of right-wing politics. It's very important that we continue to hold on to hope and continue to work for new ways to contain this growing violence and conflict. So my hope at the moment is to work towards different forms of peace promotion. Yeah? And many young people are helping me in that process. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking just of maybe you could explain one thing about these walks, like you walked to Delhi for like all these with all these people, and what the big movement this actually was.
So I think whenever we do an action, we don't do it for the sake of action. We have nothing to show to anybody. It is because poor people are coming all the way from long distance, collecting 1 rupee every day for 5 years, collecting one handful of rice every day for 5 years. They are making so much effort for 5 years for one action. So it's very important to get result out of that action. So the first action was 25,000 people marching, came back with Forest Rights Act, an act which gives land to forest dwellers, the indigenous people. That is a big achievement. Millions of people have got land by now, so it's a big achievement. The second march didn't go to Delhi. Halfway through, the government came running to sign an agreement, and the agreement is a 10-point agreement. But the government changed, so much of it is to be done. So that was, even 10-point agreement was a big achievement. Government coming down to talk to people, sign an agreement, and now we are working on how to get it implemented with the new government. But in 2013, we got a thing called Land Acquisition Rehabilitation Resettlement Act. This was an old act of British time where land can be acquired by the state without giving any money. But now the new act says you can't acquire land without the permission of the community. Before taking the land, you need to have a social impact study. If people are, if it is good land, it should not be taken, only bad land should be taken for industrial purposes, etc. There are some 5 conditions in this new law, and that was a big achievement. So every time when we walk, we come back with something concrete. And that is the only way you can keep the movement going. If you don't succeed, everything else, I mean, people coming together, singing together, dancing together, walking together, it all has a lot of meaning in terms of movement building. But if you want to sustain the movement, you also need result. And Ekta Parishad was able to bring back result. And that is the reason why it stayed on for the last so many years.
What advice would you offer to the younger generation?
See, I have only 1 or 2 small things to say. One is, I believe between silence and violence, there is a path called active non-violence. Young people are either silent, they are becoming party to the system, or they think we will take gun or we will take violent method to solve the problem. Please understand, between silence and violence there is another option, which is active non-violence. So young people should really try active nonviolence to change the problem of the world. And I also have to say that uh, money is important, but ethics are equally important. Everything economically correct need not be ethically correct. So, whenever we deal with economy, please think about ethics. How is this money generated? What cost is this money generated? At what cost this money is generated, etc. So, it will be good to have an evaluation of ethics along with economy. These are the two things I would like to tell my young friends all over the world. Thank you. Nandri, Romba Nandri.